Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar. We're going to be breaking it down from the top down. We're going to go over our monthly time frame, our weekly time frame, into our daily time frame, as there's been some stuff going on there that I, kind of was suggesting or hinting at earlier on in last week's videos. And then we'll go down into the nitty-gritty of our 30-minute time frame and just kind of go over what happened today, kind of the trades that I took, and then just give you guys an overall review. Haven't posted in a few days, just been busy, so my frequency has kind of switched up. But for those of you that do watch the videos, I do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys keep coming back. Alrighty, so right here, looking at the monthly time frame, since we broke out of that extreme monthly balance high, we've been one time framing up for 3 months in a row now, counting this month. This month is inside month, right? It's an inside month. We are inside of July's range, and we're just kind of chopping around in there for the most part, especially on our daily time frame. Definitely a lot of chop going on in there, and our 30-minute time frame, definitely a lot of chop going on in that range as well. But we've just been chopping around inside of last month's range. So if we either take out last month's low, which is least likely to happen in my opinion, with just all the odds and everything kind of in buyers' favors for the short term, unless we take out that 44.19 low, then the monthly continues to one time frame up, even if we close this month inside of last month's range. However, if we take out last month's high, we just continue to grind up higher, right? And then ultimately kind of push ourselves back towards that all-time high. However, something I've been kind of suggesting or wanting to see rather is just kind of putting the monthly back into a balance and just consolidating for a little bit on the monthly prior to getting that all-time high. I think that's a very good possibility. We get some type of consolidation on the monthly, see if price is truly being accepted up here in the larger time frames. And then once we do get really good confirmation, then this market would have a really good move to the upside and get that all-time high. So now let's go ahead and look at the weekly time frame. Weekly has been in a balance since last week, right? We took out the previous week's low. We one time frame down. Actually, whoa, I'm behind here. That's the daily balance. Sorry. Haven't done my homework, it appears. All right, so here is what we had as our weekly balance. We were one time framing down last week. We took out that balance low of 44.9375. And I was saying maybe we just stretched it a little bit, but then we kind of just continued to push lower. So the weekly is one time framing down. We'll come back into a balance on the weekly time frame if we take out last week's high. Last week's high was 44.50, so we have to get over 44.50 on the weekly time frame for us to go back to balance. But for now, the weekly is down, one time framing down 2 weeks in a row, last week and this week. So far, this week is an inside week. You can see that we broke that balance low, got to push lower, and now we're kind of coming back into that balance range, seeing if we find acceptance in that 4,500 level. If we do, then we should have no issue going and getting that 44.50 area, and then putting ourselves back into what I would probably call a 3-week balance. We would just move this balance high lower. So with that being said, let's look at our daily time frame, and you can kind of see what I mean by, like, once we took that out on our daily time frame, and we just kind of grinded lower and back tested the 50-day moving average and filled that gap that we'd been talking about for quite some time. So here's our daily time frame. You can see we've just been kind of grinding lower. We took out that balance low on the weekly time frame, one time frame down, put ourselves back into a balance, then one time frame down again, back tested the 50 2 days in a row. Now we've bounced and closed above it. So that is a very positive sign for buyers. You want to see us hold that 50, and maybe we kind of do what I was suggesting in last week's videos, which was get a pretty good consolidation period between the 50 and the 20-day moving average. I think that is very possible. if we look at what we had as our previous daily balance, is after filling that gap, which I need to get rid of, but that highlighted area, we filled that gap. We were one time framing down for 2 days in a row, and then put ourselves back into a balance after the CPI, PPI, all that data BS came out. Put ourselves back into a balance, and then went from balance to one time framing down again, and then back to balance. So we'll update our balance range right now. Now what buyers have on their sites is to hold this 50-day moving average, grind up higher, and surprisingly, what I'm about to mark as our balance high will be most likely where the 20-day moving average is. So we could find some pretty good resistance, but if we get above that, then we'll rotate and fill in this gap up here. Because like I said, most gaps tend to get filled at some point in time. We still have several downside gaps, but the upside gap is most likely to get filled just from what the market's been trying to do over the last several weeks and months, right? The market's trying to go higher. So the likelihood of us filling the upside gap, pretty good. So let's mark our balance areas. Part of me is tempted to just like mark this whole thing as balance because we just chopped around, really haven't gotten much extension from previous days lows or anything like that. But we gotta give the sellers their due here. So we're gonna move our balance high down to surprisingly 44.50. So last week's high, right? 44.50 is what we're about to move this thing down to. Number I was talking about just a second ago. So 44.50 will now be our daily balance high. All right, and now our balance low is going to be yesterday's low, or Friday's low, excuse me. Friday's low of 44.59. 44.59 is going to be our daily balance low. So now you can see we're going to be potentially chopping around inside of this 100-point range, 90, 80-point range, whatever. Chopping around in between here, the 50, the 20-day moving average. We get above the 20-day moving average, you should push up into this gap that starts at 45.70.25 and fills at 45.91. So if we can get above our balance high, get the daily pushing back to one time framing up, get above the 20-day moving average, then we should have no issue setting higher highs on the year, or at least testing the previous yearly high, or this year's high, I should say. So should have no issue getting that volume. Not the greatest so far. Last several days has been kind of lackish. Besides that one day where we had all that data released, not a whole lot's been happening. So let's see how we turn out by the end of this week. Several days left to go. We do have options expiration this week, I do believe. So that could cause some volatility late in the week. So we got these levels, right? Keep your eye on that 44.59 low area. Keep your eye on that 44.50 area. If we get below 44.59, that means we are below the 50-day moving average, and we'll target these other daily lows here at 44.23, back test the 4400 level, and then potentially, if sellers were real serious, could go down and fill this gap here, which was our premium gap, if I'm not mistaken. However, same thing for the upside. If we get above that 44.50, gap above is the target. All right, now let's go ahead and look at our 30-minute time frame, and then just go over what trade I took today and how it worked out. So let me zoom this bad boy in. All right. So here is our 30-minute profile with the bar chart, right? So today we go out with a double distribution day. We go out with one set of single prints and an afternoon pullback low in K period. So if I were to mark all my time frames, which I haven't been doing recently, it's just been kind of time consuming, but just so you guys can understand what time frame I'm talking about, we'll just mark them real quick. We got A period. We got B period. So A period, we opened up inside of previous day's range, pushed up, got to that wide point of control that we had at 79.50 in B period, and then this market wanted to go and target the previous day's high at 44.93. So after kind of holding our own down here for the buyers and pushing up and getting that first destination, the next upside destination was the previous day's high at 44.93. So once B period opened up and held the open, pushed above A's high and continued to grind up higher, we had an idea that this market potentially would go get the previous day's high and the overnight high. So sometimes you guys will hear me talk about checklists. So you always want to make sure you have a checklist. That way you can kind of keep yourself from doing stupid things and shorting the market when it's pushing higher versus buying a market on a pullback to go higher, right? So one of the things on our checklist that we always look for is where's the overnight high. And then we can see here our overnight high at the time was 45.01. So we needed to get above 45.01 to get our overnight high. So first destination before then was that previous daily high at 44.93. We get above that, and then your target would have been that overnight high. So what did buyers have in their favor at the time? Those are the questions we got to, ask ourselves, right? So buyers now have, right? They took out A's high, so they continue to put higher highs in. So we have one time framing up. Once C period opens up, we now have a set of single prints, which I'll mark. We now create a set of single prints right here. Basically an intraday gap. I'm sure you guys hear me talk about that all the time. So we're one time framing up. So what is the likelihood that we continue to set higher highs? Pretty good, right? And then your next target is that previous daily high. So buyers have one time framing up. They have the open, right? We haven't seen the opening since A period. So we continue to push higher, single prints, one time framing up, open. Next thing you have on their checklist is what we call the initial balance high or the initial balance low, which is just the first two time frames, the first two 30-minute time frames, high and low. So that would be A period's low and B period's high. If C period opens up and takes out, one of the two, then that goes in your checklist. So C period took out B's high, saying, all right, this market's going to go higher. So that's another thing in buyers' hand in their hat, right? They have another feather in their hat. We continue to push up higher. We continue to set higher highs. So one time framing continues, and now we have the initial balance high. So there are four things in buyer's favor while there's nothing in a seller's favor at this moment, right? I guarantee you there were people that were shorting as this thing was pushing up towards the previous day's high, not understanding that this market was wanting to move higher. And, we had a checklist that was solidifying that more or less. So we had, like I said, the open, right? We had the one time framing up, so taking out a previous time frame's high. We had single prints, so intraday gap to the upside. And then we had the initial balance high, B's high right here, right? And then we continue that one time framing. So next thing on the buyer's checklist is just to move value higher at this point, right? So now we need to see buyers move the value area from at the time, which was unchanged, to higher. So you see the bracket area, right, with the blue lines, that got moved higher later in the day as we went. So we now start to kind of set our eyes on the upside targets. So in C period, your upside target was that 93 area. And then the next upside target was that overnight high, right? The overnight high right here at 01. You get the 01 area. Your next target is 45.06 where the single print started. And then 45.0650 is where they filled from that one tick distribution from Thursday of last week. So that was your next upside target. Then we got like a little bit of a consolidation sideways thing going on, right? So as we start to get later into the trading day, we start to get some consolidation periods, right? So now buyers have, the single prints, they're one time framing up, overnight high. They've got the initial balance high. So there's, 6 things. They got the open, they got value. There's like 6 things in buyer's favor while there isn't anything in seller's favor yet. We did have another set of single prints that were created in C period. They eventually got filled later, but I'll mark that area just so you can see what we were buying against when I described the trade that I was taking. So once C period pushed up and created that the second set of single prints, D period pulled back a little bit, held the set of single prints, didn't quite get back to B's high. E period couldn't take out D's low, so E period sets a new high on the day, right? Then we pull back at F. So now you start to look for what we call in the profile world an afternoon pullback low. In this case, it would be a textbook afternoon pullback low, which by textbook I mean we have a set of single prints below us, right? So whenever we're looking for an afternoon pullback low, you want to have a set of single prints below you, right? To indicate that buyers are strong, right? So whenever we have this pullback in F period, it is the first time frame in the afternoon, right? So the first time frame that can take out a higher low and be an afternoon rally high or an afternoon pullback low is F period, or right around 11 o'clock is when that time frame opens. So once 11 o'clock rolls around, you look for things like an afternoon pullback low. So F period takes out E's low. Now you're targeting the downside, right? So F period stopped the one time framing up. So obviously we start to run some stops. Buyers start to get out of their positions. Sellers kind of step into the market a little bit to fill the set of single prints that filled at 89.25. So F period pulls down, fills that set of single prints. That's where you look to get long. That's where you look to become a buyer, is where the single prints fill, or within that set of single prints to rotate back up and visit the highs again, especially when you have a textbook situation like single prints below you. Now, you definitely want to have your stops in and be willing to accept the risk of this continuing to pull down and not hold, right? Kind of like we did, trying to think, kind of like we did on this day here. Like we moved up higher and then this market just puked it all up and then went and set new lows on the day. But typically what you're looking for with an afternoon pullback low situation is you're looking for a pullback, right? Fill in a set of single prints. So that's gone. So you're looking to be a buyer within the 90 to 89 range. So you become a buyer. That's where I got long. I was long, not very large size for once. I think it was like a 30 lot, but I was honestly looking to see if this market would pull back even more so. And then I would get even longer around the 86 area to 85 area. I was looking to buy more around that area, but we just never pulled back to it. So once F period pulled back and filled that set of single prints, I took a small position early on around 89, 90, and 91 across all four accounts. I was long, I believe, a 30 lot across the board, which isn't a very large size for me. And I was just looking to see if this market would rotate back up, if we would hold F's low in G period. So we did exactly that in G period, right? G opens up, can't takes out F's low. Now we're looking to rotate back up to D's high at 98. That becomes a target. And then your next target would be the high at 45.03. So just depending on how long you want to hold on to your trade, kind of depends on what you want to do. For me, I was just looking to get to 98, where I would get out of the trade for a rather good, gain. So G period pushes up. I get out of my position from buying at 89, 90, and 91. I get out of my position around 97 and 98. Really good trade. I only ended up, roughly $504 on the day, but solid trade there. And then here in H period, we continue to push up a little bit higher. Tested the high, so we got to 45.02. So you could have squeezed out another 4 points on that trade, and then exited just before testing the high day. And then this market decided to roll back over and wanted to test the lows again. But we're at the same time we are creating a wide point of control around the 97 to 98 area. So this market got short, rotated back in, and J period continued to pull back. Oh, excuse me, in I period, not J. Let me adjust that. So I period and then it pulls back even further in J. So I'm not looking to be a buyer, right? Not looking to be a buyer in this situation. Want to see if we get down to F's low. If we take it out, you know, how much extension do we get? How much tempo is there when we get that low? And then in K period, we do exactly that. So now we're testing what was our afternoon pullback low at 89. And we're looking to see, all right, does this market continue to pull back and fill this set of single prints down here? Or are we just going to set another low and then potentially have K as our afternoon pullback low? And usually I don't call K as an afternoon pullback, but in this scenario we would, because it only took out F's low by 3 ticks. So, you know, 75 cents essentially is what it took it out by. So we get K's low and then we rotate back up in L and Larry, right? L rotates back higher, and then in Mo does what Mo does and just absolutely rockets back to the upside. And had you taken the long again around the 88 to 89, 90 level for this thing to rotate, you know, back to point of control, right? Point of control was at 97. So you're looking for maybe K period or L period to rotate back up and get to 97, which it did as a mean reversion trade, and you get out part of your position there, and then see if you go and test the highs again. You know, that was a really good trade, or you get all out right there at L because you don't know what Mo is going to do. Either way, good fade right here in K period. Buy the dip right there. Rotate, set new highs on the day. So anybody that bought in that 89, 90 area definitely reaped the benefits, as our upside target was what we had set as our high of day today at 4503. And then what we ultimately wanted to see, which was single prints fill at 4506.50. So textbook afternoon pullback low. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. And that's where, you know, I got long here. I missed the long in K period. I wasn't around my computer at the time. But you still want to have those types of trades in your arsenal. Now, could you have faded the edge in H period? Yes, but you don't know if we're going to go set new highs on the day. What has the market been trying to do all day long? Market's been trying to push up higher. So you don't want to be a buyer, or you don't want to sell the high, really, just because you don't know what this market's going to do. If it was going to do exactly what happened in M period, which was poof, pop up to the upside. So now let's mark our destinations, go over some scenarios. And I know this video is long, but typically my usual length. Because I try to give you guys as much information and insight to what I was kind of thinking and what the market was doing at the time, right? Market got too long up top, rotated to the lows, got too short, we rotate back up high, you know, things of that nature. All right, so we got our high of day here, 23. At 4507, we filled that set of single prints, so I can get rid of this shit. Oh, excuse me. We have an afternoon pullback low in K period. It's textbook, so we're going to call it that. Afternoon pullback low. So we'd look to see if we find buyers there tomorrow. Then we have our set of single prints that start here at 83.75. Look to see if we can find buyers here. If we pull back to it, usually becomes targets to the downside. So as it's something to lean against today, tomorrow if we pull back to it, it would, you know, you would look to fill it, right? It's just like any gap, you'd look to fill that gap, or you look to see if buyers step into that area again. So single prints start there, and then they fill at 78.50. Single prints fill. So like I said, we pull back to it. You want to see, do we hold it, or do we just rock it down and target that 78 like it's nothing? And then we have today's low of day down here at 69. Low of day. All right. So now here's what our chart looks like. So if we open up tomorrow in the upper distribution above the afternoon pullback low. Ooh, and one more thing. We got a price probe here. Forgot to mark this. Price probe 55 or 4503.25. Price probe. So essentially what you want to see as a buyer is buyers want to see us open above this price probe of 4503. We open above that. We should have no issue pushing up into the upper distribution from that big day down where we had that held that trend. So your target on the upside would be essentially 45.25, and then the previous or that day's high at 44.75. So if this market opens above 45.03, takes out today's high, it should grind up and test the 45.20 area, then test the 45.40 to 45.50 level and get that daily high, because there's nothing in our way on the upside that's going to stop us. However, if we open up below the price probe, then you would look to see if this market rotates back down. Also, hold on, let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got a 10Y point of control I should probably mark here. Kind of slacking on seeing things, but yeah, we got a 10Y point of control here at H's low of 97. So if we open up below 45.03, you'll look to rotate down to 44.97. 10Y point of control. If we get our 10Y point of control, then you would look to continue to rotate down towards our afternoon pullback low of 44.8825. And if we get that, then you'll look to rotate and target the single print fill at 44.7850. Then our daily low, 44.69. Get into our lower distribution. So, you know, that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for acceptance here, right? We're looking to find acceptance in this area that I just highlighted. Or we reject here and then rotate to find acceptance in this area, right? Or do we just chop in between? It's kind of the question. So wear your hard hats, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it positive out there. Hopefully you took something away from this this video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. I know this was a long one. Thank you for watching if you made it to the end. See ya.